Have you ever been sitting in church just fighting the urge to stay awake? And it has nothing to do with the message not being interesting. You're just so tired from the day before. I can't imagine what that must be like for the pastor, looking out at his congregation, just seeing people like dozing off. Well, this same very thing happened to the Apostle Paul in Acts 20. And this dude named Eutychus literally falls asleep from a third story and falls to his death. Imagine that. So in Acts 20, Paul had been traveling with others for so long, and they ended up in this place called Troas. And Paul was sensing the need to preach for a very long time because he was leaving the very next day, and this was possibly the last time he was going to be in contact with these particular Christians. So he preached for about 6 hours, all the way up until midnight. And the young man named Eutychus was standing up near a third-story window. And the combination of the late hour, the heat, and perhaps the fumes from the oil lamps made him fall asleep. This should be a comfort to any preacher who sees someone sleeping in his flock. Because if people still fell asleep listening to the infamous Apostle Paul, then it can happen to anyone. So Paul was preaching for a solid 6 hours, and it was after a really long day of work for most of his audience. Eutychus was struggling to stay awake, and eventually drifted off to sleep. As sleep overcame his conscience, he fell out of a third-story window and plummeted to his death. Everyone rushed down to see him, and they pronounced him dead. But Paul, he grabs him and embraces him, and he says, "Do not trouble yourselves, for life is in him." This comment by Paul was referring to his condition after being ministered to by Paul. He had life because the word of the Lord had entered his mind and his body through Paul's teaching. So God worked a miracle, and Eutychus was raised because of Paul's great faith, and it happened in front of everyone. So this got everyone's attention, and then Paul, he continues to preach until the sun comes up the next morning, and everyone listening was blessed by the Lord. Even when we fall, God's power can bring us back to life. This message is a metaphor for people who are in the faith and then they fall, and God in all his mercy will always come back and bring you back to the faith. No fall is too great for the God that restores. Amen.